With the call, the Packers-Jaguars matchup, the NFL on Fox, Kenny Albert, the great, joining us again. Nice to see you, Kenny. And here we are with gotta have it games for the Jaguars moving ahead here.
Yeah, great to be with you, JP. Welcome back from London. Excited to head down to Jacksonville. It's been a couple of years and should be a good one against the Packers this Sunday.
Yeah, Packers 5-2, Jaguars on the other side of it 2-5. But let's start off with the Jaguars' road ahead here. The next five opponents are against teams with winning records. Four of those are NFC contenders. Three of those are in the NFC North. I mean, this is a gauntlet of sorts for the Jaguars here. How do they manage that and still kind of maintain the week-to-week presence? You got to get a lot of these games to even have a chance.
Right. You know, the old adage, you have to only look at it one game at a time. And the NFC North has been terrific so far this season. Our crew had the Vikings week one, and they were very impressive against the Giants and obviously went on a roll from there. We were in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, saw Caleb Williams in person for the first time, and the Bears off to a terrific start. Obviously, Detroit and the Packers. So it's the best division in football record-wise so far. But again, from a Jaguar standpoint, you just have to take it one game at a time. We happened to work the Atlanta-Seattle game last Sunday. Going into that game, the Falcons had won three straight. They were on a roll. The Seahawks had lost three in a row, and Seattle goes into Atlanta on the road and wins the game pretty handily. So, as you know, in the NFL, you just never know on a week-to-week basis.
You never know. Week-to-week league for sure. Kenny, there's two $55 million a year quarterbacks going at it, and Jordan Love is the only one of like the top five or six highest paid quarterbacks with a winning record this year. So a lot of these guys around the league are struggling. Why is Jordan Love the one? And especially since coming off the knee injury, it seems like he's taken a step up.
He certainly has, and you have to be impressed with what Love was able to do last season, coming in after sitting for a couple of years, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Jonathan Vilma and I were just talking about this last week. Yes, there were many quarterbacks we've seen over the last 10 or 15 years who have stepped in right away and had success. But when you think back to some of the others, with Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre for 3 years and watching and learning, and then the same thing in Green Bay a decade and a half later with Love sitting behind Rodgers. Drew Brees did not start his first year in San Diego, sat behind Doug Flutie. Eli Manning did not start until midway through his rookie season, sat behind Kurt Warner. There are several other examples. You don't see it as much these days. A lot of the young quarterbacks do start right away, but Love coming in last year did a terrific job. This season suffered the injury early. Malik Willis comes in and wins two games, so they go 2-0 with him. And like you said, Love does have a winning record. He's thrown 15 touchdowns despite missing the two games, which is among the league leaders. Has also thrown some interceptions, but the Packers off to a 5-2 start.
And they spread it around too. I mean, it's not just one or two guys getting the football from Jordan, right? I mean, they get it all over the field, it feels like.
No, they really have. Their coaching staff does a terrific job. They have so many offensive weapons. And then defensively, they've forced the most takeaways. They have 17 over the first 7 games. Xavier McKinney coming over from the Giants, 5 interceptions, had at least one in each of the first 5 games. So they're getting it done on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Jair Alexander he'll tell you about it after he does it to you and then tell you about it again. That's just kind of have that swagger on defense that you like to see if it's on your side, but not on the others. So let's now go to the Jaguars offense against this group this week. And they ran the football. They ran the daylights out of it at Wembley last week. I guess the question is that sustainable? Is the Jags offensive line ready for this matchup? And can they do this week over week? They only have, I mean, they may not have ETN this week, but Tank Bigsby seems to be taking a step in the right direction.
Right, he certainly does. And this will be the first time that I'll get to see the Jags in person. You're a lot closer to this situation. But from a Jaguar standpoint, you hope that you can keep that up. You hope that you get ETN back soon. I've always been an Evan Ingram fan when he was in New York, both his receiving and blocking skills. Excited to see Trevor Lawrence in person for the first time this year. So it should be a fun game.
They've got young guys that are making big plays. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. down the field, three catches of 50+ yards this year. And Tank, who we talked about, Ventrell Miller, young linebacker, has been playing well. when you have young guys stepping up in a role and playing big, that's certainly good for this year. But for the future ahead, to have those cornerstone guys, that doesn't happen a lot. So they have multiple guys, 3 guys, 4 guys doing that is big for this team.
No, absolutely. That's exciting to see when you watch the development of a franchise with draft picks, homegrown talent. And I know in speaking with my partner, Jonathan Vilma, he's certainly excited to see some of those young guys, especially on the defensive side. And, we're about halfway through the preparation now as we speak, but we had a conference call with our crew yesterday, and we'll speak to players and coaches on both teams. So really excited to see some of those young guys this Sunday.
Kenny Albert with us, Fox Sports. Final moments with you here. Doug Pederson's perspective on a start like this. They've done this before. I mean, 2 years ago, they were awful, and then they started reeling off games. The Titans came back down to them. So his approach is, hey, just look at 2 years ago, guys. We can do this thing. So to have that experience has to be valuable for head coach Doug Pederson going into this setup.
Doug is so even keeled, and he has a championship pedigree, obviously, having won a Super Bowl with Philadelphia, was on some terrific teams in Green Bay, coaching against his one of his former teams this weekend, longtime backup to Brett Favre. Not only within a season, JP, but you look at that playoff game a couple of years ago, the 27-point comeback against the Chargers, right? So they've done it in a season, they've done it in a game. This team isn't far removed from playing in the divisional round and keeping it close against Kansas City. So, you mentioned the schedule. When you look at it in that perspective, playing against all these NFC North teams, it could be a daunting task. But when they focus on the task at hand, and I know it's been a long trip. Obviously, the 2 games in London, now back home to face the Packers this Sunday. But who knows? A win this week against Green Bay, and that could springboard them to some of the similar success that they had a couple of years ago.
4 first half interceptions in the playoff game. That's bad for everybody's health. I mean, mine included, yours. I mean, that's not it's something you want to see, but they somehow overcame that and got the win that day. Kenny, great to see you. I know it's kind of mixed seasons for you right now. Hockey's starting up, right? You got a lot going on.
It is that time of the year, fun time of the year, with a bit of a jigsaw puzzle of a schedule and a lot of travel, but can't wait to get down to Jacksonville.
Thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, JP. Appreciate it.